Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome once again to NoDQ&A video right here on NoDQ.com and the YouTube channel, youtube.com/NoDQCAW. WWE Payback is this coming Sunday, live on pay-per-view. Make sure you stay tuned to NoDQ.com for all the latest news and rumors, as well as live pay-per-view coverage this Sunday. You could call this a pre-Payback edition of NoDQ&A video. I got a ton of questions here regarding Payback, so as the saying goes, let's get right down to it. First one today comes from WWE Fan 5. Hey Aaron, what did you think of Raw? Overall, I thought it was a pretty solid show. I especially liked Daniel Bryan versus Seth Rollins, but the start of the show was one of the worst starts I've ever seen. Well, it was certainly unique. It was a different way to open up Raw than usual, having Vince McMahon come out there, stopping the match, Triple H restarting it. It was something different, but to be honest, I wasn't really crazy about the segment. And wasn't really feeling the backstage segments with Triple H and Vince and Stephanie. I just thought, like, whatever. I mean, wasn't a big deal to me. But we'll have to wait and see how things progress with the storyline. It's interesting because this was originally supposed to be a storyline that would take place over several months, but WWE has sped things up with it. And I think it's in response to the low ratings. They're trying to get Vince involved in a storyline to try to boost up the ratings. So, I mean, it does feel like hot-shotting, but, you know, maybe they have a long-term plan that they're going with, and maybe this will lead to something interesting over the next several months. Who knows? All right, this one comes from Truth MMA. Oh, and just go real quick, the rest of Raw. You know, Daniel Bryan and Seth Rollins was great. Everything with the Shield and Daniel Bryan has been outstanding, and you know, just overall the wrestling on the show was very good. The John Cena versus Ryback segment was okay, just a typical segment to build up the pay-per-view main event. So I mean, it was a good Raw. I wouldn't call it a great Raw, but I mean, it was a solid show, and you know, Jerry Lawler there with the Hardys, that was kind of funny, all things considered, but whatever. Alright, this one comes from Truth MMA. With the current lineup for Payback, do you believe this show is going to be great, average, or bust? And which match will be the match of the night? Well, let's start off with the main event, John Cena versus Ryback, 3 Stages of Hell. I think it'll be fine. You know, the I Quit match was, or Last Man Standing match was a good match, and you know, people didn't like the finish, but I thought the execution of the match was well done, and both guys you know, played their part well. So I'm sure with all the smoke and mirrors, the 3 Stages of Hell will be fine. It'll be entertaining. Daniel Bryan and Randy Orton against Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns for the tag titles. That should be a really good match. Possibly a great match. And Kane and Dean Ambrose will be okay. And Sheamus, who by the way is now in the pre-show, I'll get to that in a minute. Sheamus and Damian Sandow will be fine. So I mean, I think what this pay-per-view has going for it the most is the Chicago crowd. The Chicago crowd's really gonna make this show something special, even if it isn't. And you know, CM Punk and Jericho, that should be an excellent match. And just the fact of the atmosphere with it being CM Punk's hometown. That will almost certainly be the match of the night, just because of the crowd heat and because it's CM Punk's return match. So I definitely think this will be an above-average pay-per-view, and I think even if the card itself doesn't end up being that good, I think the crowd will make this a very memorable show at the very least. Hey Aaron, how do you feel about every match on Payback having all 6 championships defended? It's not even Night of Champions. I think we finally see a pay-per-view with all the titles on the line. I believe this should be consistent. Your thoughts? I agree with you. I think that the titles should always be defended on pay-per-view, and it devalues the titles when they're not part of the show. Not a big fan of the Night of Champions concept. I've mentioned it before, how I'm not really a fan in general of the themed pay-per-views. And like I said, every pay-per-view should have a title match, and you know, make the titles important again. And I do think WWE has done a better job in recent weeks. Well, with the tag titles, I mean, they've done a better job, you know, having Team Hell No hold the titles for a long period of time, and now the Shield has them. So the tag titles are starting to feel like they have some kind of importance again. And the U.S. title is starting to mean more with Dean Ambrose holding the title. And as far as the IC title, it looks to me like Curtis Axel is going to get the title on Sunday, and that's why he's in the match now, so he can get the belt. And if WWE is going to push Curtis Axel hard, then why not put the IC title on him? I think that's a good idea. So I think they're doing okay with the titles right now. From Hawaii Dens, aloha, Aaron. With the tag team set to be The Shield versus Randy Orton and Daniel Bryan, do you think now is the time to pull the trigger on giving Bryan the push and Orton the heel turn that's long overdue? Well, I mentioned this last week about Daniel Bryan. I absolutely think it's time to go all the way with Daniel Bryan, push him to the main event scene. Everybody is talking about Daniel Bryan right now. He has a ton of momentum. I mean, look at the crowd reaction to him on Monday. I mean, even JBL was amazed at how over he was with the fans and how the fans, everybody in the building was doing the yes. And, I think Vince has to notice this. He has to see that the crowd is firmly behind Daniel Bryan. And, hopefully Vince will just overlook the fact that he's a short guy and, he's not jacked up like John Cena or Ryback, but he can get a bigger reaction than just about anybody on the roster, even John Cena at this point. When Cena came out, I noticed this on Raw this week. When Cena came out, if you look at the crowd, you watch the people as they pan through the crowd, a lot of people were sitting down when John Cena came up, and that's not something that you usually see. So I thought that was a little bit interesting, and a big contrast to Daniel Bryan. I mean, he was clearly the most over guy on the show was Daniel Bryan. So yeah, you got to push him. I fully suspect that the Shield will retain in this match, and there's going to be some sort of angle with Daniel Bryan and Randy Orton. It's weird because it doesn't really feel like Daniel Bryan is like WWE wants to go with him as a babyface. Like the way he was acting on SmackDown, it still felt like he was a whiny heel type of character. So I hope they move away from that, and the Randy Orton heel turn we've been talking about for months now, long overdue, and Orton wants it. So I think Payback would be the perfect place to do it. The crowd is going to be really behind Daniel Bryan, even more than usual, and I think if Orton turned on him, he would get a huge heel reaction for turning on him. So Payback could be the perfect spot to do it. Will it happen? I'm not going to say it's going to happen because, as I've mentioned time and time again, every time I speculate about it, it doesn't happen. So, but we could see some sort of split between those two and perhaps a match, on Raw or at Money in the Bank or even SummerSlam. I mean, who knows what direction they're going with those guys at this point. All right, one more from WWE fan. Hey, Aaron, do you think WWE should have Daniel Bryan win the WWE title in Aberdeen, Washington? I could only imagine what that place would be like. I think it would be right up there with Money in the Bank 2011. Well, I'm guessing you've never been to Aberdeen, Washington. I have. It's a very small, sleepy town, maybe 10,000 people in western Washington in a very isolated area. So, that would never happen. I'm not even sure if they have a full-fledged sports arena there. Now, of course, if Daniel Bryan was to win it in Washington, Seattle would be the obvious place to do it. I don't know if Daniel Bryan has that kind of hometown following as some other guys have. WWE doesn't really bring up that he's from Washington all that much. Perhaps if they did and started playing up the fact that he's from Washington and he came out with the jerseys or whatever, maybe he could get that kind of reaction. So I mean, I don't think the city really matters. I think Daniel Bryan is clearly over in every city that WWE goes to, and it really doesn't matter where you have him win the WWE title. All right, this one comes from Peter Scott Jones. With Kane getting a chance at the U.S. title at Payback and WWE hyping up the U.S. title as the only title Kane has not held yet, do you see him winning it at Payback? I personally think it's too early for Ambrose to drop the title. I completely agree with you about Ambrose, and I don't see him losing the title. I think that the way to go here is Ambrose beats Kane clean. Kane is a guy that will not be affected by losing a match. He can do a job, and he will still be Kane. He will still be over with the audience, and it elevates Dean Ambrose. So the only logical finish for me is Ambrose getting the clean win off the legendary Kane. And, I could see them doing, the DQ or a screw job or whatever, but I think you should just have Ambrose beat him and elevate the title and elevate Ambrose. I think that's the best way to go. All right. This one comes from Tony2Fly. What do you think of Sheamus being on a, quote, special kickoff to WWE Payback? I'm really surprised about that, not just because Sheamus is one of the top baby faces in the company, but also because a lot of television time has been devoted to Sheamus and Damien Sandow. They've had all these different segments in the ring on Raw and SmackDown. So it surprises me that they invested so much TV time in this feud and they're just throwing it on the pre-show. Now, maybe they're trying to boost up the pre-show numbers and they want to have what they feel is a big match on the pre-show. I mean, that could be why they're doing it. But definitely surprised me. And I guess Sheamus is now She-Miz, as some people have said. All right, last one from Chap574. Heron, love the show. Thank you for that. First time asker. Who do you think will be the Lumberjacks at Payback, and will any of them play a big part in the outcome of the match? Please answer in video. Thanks. Well, the guys that you saw on Raw will most likely be the guys you see at Payback in the Lumberjack match. Maybe not Daniel Bryan and Randy Orton and those guys, but certainly almost all the mid-carders and lower-card guys will be the Lumberjacks in that match. And, I definitely see them playing a big part in the match. I mean, I think that's why they're doing the match in the first place. So you can have a non-decisive finish. You can have the Lumberjack guys interfere, and then the guy has the excuse. The guy that loses can say, the other guys interfered in my match. So, it's not a clean finish or whatever. So I absolutely see them getting involved and the Lumberjacks playing a role in the outcome of the match. Definitely. All right, that'll do it for this edition of NoDQ&A video. Stay tuned to NoDQ.com. Stay tuned to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/NoDQCAW. I've been posting videos on a daily basis. Check out the playlists I have. Just stay tuned to everything on NoDQ.com regarding Payback. And I will see you guys next time for more NoDQ&A video.